Good afternoon or good morning. My name is Ben Dudley. I'm the director of Mainers for Clean Energy Jobs. We're a coalition of businesses, business associations, labor unions, professional associations, and environmental leaders who formed to advocate in support of the New England Clean Energy Connect, $1 billion public infrastructure investment here in the state of Maine that will bring an enormous amount of clean Canadian hydroelectricity into the New England grid. And I'm delighted to be joined this morning by the president and CEO of Hydro-Québec, Sophie Brochu. Sophie, welcome. It's a pleasure to see you.
Thank you. The same here, sir.
Sophie, if you don't mind, tell us about your path to becoming CEO of Hydro-Québec. It's notable that you're the first woman to lead the company.
I am, and I think it's a testament to how societies have moved forward. Obviously, if I am able to have this job as a woman, it's because many generations of women and men before me made it possible. So the path is a bit I was not predestined to be a manager. I was a music student. I was a drama student. And then I realized that I loved being surrounded by artists. I loved creativity, but that I was not personally an artist. So they've all stayed my friends, but at one point I had to study something and earn a living. So I elected to do economics because I like the way you look at things globally. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with that. It could have been philosophy, sociology, anthropology, history. It ended up being economics. And at the end of my university year, I had a course of energy economics. I fell in love with that. And then I moved on for 30 odd years of energy businesses. And here I am. That is what it is.
So your timing was great. I mean, we're now in a time when energy is a big focus of international attention now that we're having to deal with climate concerns. I'm curious to know what priorities you bring to your leadership with Hydro-Québec.
Well, first I joined a magnificent organization. When I was leading another energy company, I often said that Hydro-Québec is one of the most fascinating energy companies in the world. I don't say that because I am managing it now. It's just, I've always said that. The priorities I bring essentially are in line in many aspects with what was done through the years. The foundation of Hydro-Québec is a public service. And the mission of a public service is to serve society. And serving society is a big mandate, and you can bring to it whatever light you want. Personally, and I know that corporately, the people at HQ know that we're not there to maximize anything. We're there to optimize what we have. And optimizing is a tough job. Maximizing is easy. I want to maximize the profit, go to hell the rest of it, and you be sure we'll maximize profit. But you don't do that in an organization like ours. What we want to do is to be there for the society that we serve. Obviously, we serve Quebecers, but through the years, the organization have understood that working with neighbors is the way to do about. And when we see what we're going through right now, as the world seems more and more fragmented, and as we see the world being more and more parochial, I think the intelligent societies and the intelligent organizations are the one who will be able to pull on the best of everybody for the better good of a broader population than a strict customer. So when you think about that, everybody cannot, with the finance that we have, public, private, post-pandemic, we cannot say this is my sandbox and I want all my tools in my sandbox and this is my sandbox. If we add up like that, we're going to overpay for everything that we have to do. So what we have to realize, and it speaks to my priorities, is that if people could avoid paying energy bills altogether, they would. There's no thrill in paying an energy bill. So the responsibility that we have as energy providers is to make sure that we bring the cleanest energy possible at the best cost possible, not for this week, but for a whole period of time that will give reliability, peace of mind, knowing that we are aiming in the right direction. And in order to do that, we need to share. We need to share the brains, we need to share the hearts, we need to share the assets, and make sure that we do that in the most optimal way.
Yes. So to your point about optimization and sort of sharing assets, sharing heart, sharing brains, you know, we hear a lot about mutually beneficial opportunities for two-way trade in energy between Maine and Quebec. What's your perspective on these on the opportunities that actually exist in front of us?
Well, I think that we have in front of us a very important project, a project that allows for more renewable energy, clean energy to flow in the US Northeast, to flow in Maine, and to flow south of Maine. When we think about linear projects, we have a tremendous challenge. Building a plant is something. Building a line is another thing, because by definition, a line is a chain of people, of human beings, of owners who need to allow for an infrastructure to pass through a territory, to pass on their own properties in order to serve not only them, but the people downstream of where they are. By itself, it's an act of generosity. By itself, it's an act of allowing a greater good, but at the same time, this act needs to be economically rewarded. So you need to have a greater sense of greater good, but you need also to find an economical reward for moving into that direction. This is why the way we reason the project, we don't reason it as building an infrastructure. We reason it as building a relationship, which the backbone of which is an infrastructure. But if you build an infrastructure or a road and the only way is just go through and so be it, there's no incentive for anybody into working into that type of relationship. So we want to bring something that is very sensitive to both the environment and the economy. And in this time of post-pandemia, we need to be all thinking hard of what needs to be done to bounce back economically. But not to bounce back like catching anything, but bouncing back with putting the foundation to where we want the world to be. In which world do we want to be living in? Are we happy in the world that we are living in? And I think we like a lot of it, but not all of it. And certainly having an economical energy, a clean energy, and working intelligently with the communities that make it possible is what we want to be doing. And this is what we want to be building in Maine. So before building an infrastructure, it's building a relationship. And we all need to be recognizant of the fact that these are assets that will be long-lived. Nobody take out the power line and move it to Mexico. It's going to stick around. It's going to be a backbone of a long-standing relationship. And on that, we're going to be building societies that are going to be more economically resilient, environmentally resilient. And from that, I think relationship builds, I'm thinking university, I'm thinking culture, I'm thinking economy, I'm thinking environmental, I'm thinking communities friendship way before business. I know it sounds vanilla, but this is not vanilla and apple pie. this is the only way to move forward if we really want to build a better society, belief.
And so in that vein, Mainers, in the context of the public debate that's happening around the Clean Energy Connect, are asking themselves how it will serve our interests. And I'm wondering if you can speak more specifically to the benefits of the project to Mainers.
Well, there will be, and there is what we call an economical package of $250 million, so over $250 million of economical benefit that will flow to Mainers. It's going to be broader than an energy project. It will be a telecommunication project. It will be an internet connection project. So when we think about resilience, when we think post-pandemia of what is needed in your neck of the wood, not only building an energy connect, but if we can dovetail and say, how can we bring internet? How can we bring the fiber to those communities? This is an additional benefit. And the environmental benefit is that we're going to erase the equivalent of 700,000 cars emissions. So economically, a package of over $250 million, better air, better GHG, and a better telecommunication system. And it's not going to stop there. We don't do one-time things. I am of the belief that we will be able to do even more as we get to better understand what are the needs, what are the requirements, and what is expected from Mainers.
So as we've learned from expert presentations, we've done a number of webinars over recent months. We've learned that electricity from Quebec is not only clean, but it's also abundant and affordable. Bringing more of this energy into Maine and New England puts downward pressure on consumers' electric bills, but it also has broader economic impacts. Can you speak to how lower energy costs translate into employment and business growth?
Well, we see that energy cost is something that everybody would like to avoid. So it is necessary to be able as a territory, as a government, as an enterprise, to be thinking about the ability to have a low cost, renewable energy, reliable. In Quebec, it so happens that we were blessed. It's not an intelligence. We have great geology. And we were blessed. The intelligence that we had was to build those infrastructure to take the benefit of it. And those infrastructure come in big chunks. So what we have now are not surpluses. It's not surpluses. A surplus is something that doesn't have any value. A surplus is a leftover after a meal. What we have is a potential, is a meal waiting to be served. And the way we reason it is that we want to use the potential of this energy that we have and to place it where we believe it will have the best economical and environmental benefit. So this is not to say that it's going to be there forever, and we are choosing very precisely what we want to do. It's additional because the water keeps on coming in. So it's additional energy that can flow into New England. When we have more energy, it reduces prices. Is everybody happy about that? The answer is no. Because if you are a producer and you are producing from fossil fuel and you are more expensive, then it's a difficult competition to see coming in. But we don't view ourselves as competition. We view ourselves as complementary to the existing assets. And then when a customer or a state or a territory has more choice, they can use the best energy at the right place at the right time. So those assets will be complementary, and for sure, bringing more renewable and cheap electricity in the US Northeast is definitely going to benefit the customer at the end of it.
A lot of people these days focus on our differences, the differences between Maine and Quebec. But we actually have a lot in common beyond just a border, which of course is the border of Maine with Quebec is longer than the border with Maine and any other state. It's longer than our border with New Hampshire. And Quebec's border with Maine is its longest border with the United States. But there's a lot that we have in common. And I'm wondering if you could speak to the commonalities between us and speak to your personal connection to Maine.
Yeah, well, I so happen that I've spent a bit of all my summers, and I'm 57 now, in Maine, various parts of Maine. And so I obviously, like many Quebecers, I went to the ocean, but I also went hiking, and I go to the lakes, and I've been fishing, and I've been battling big flies for long summers. I believe that territories, states, people who also have an ocean connection like we have in Quebec, there is something in there because we have ports and we've been welcoming other societies and voices. We've been welcoming people from Europe. We've been having ships come in on our shores. And this creates something in our mental posture of mind openness. Bear with me, I'm not saying that if you don't have a coast that you're closed-minded, but I do believe that having been exposed to this reality suddenly creates something very unique. And I do sense that when I go to Maine, as I sense that when I travel around Quebec. There are many Brochus in Maine. There are many French families, last name in Maine. We've been going across that border, and I certainly have the intention to cross again whenever the border opens. There is a deep affection between Quebecers and Maine, and that goes beyond the touristic thing. The tourist is one thing, but beyond touristic, it creates souvenir. There is a smell. I am here sitting in my living room, and I know exactly the smell of Portland. And I can talk to you about the smell of Cape Elizabeth. And I can tell you that this smell, this perfume is different than the one in Cape Porpoise. I know it. And many Quebecers do. And I really hope to be able to welcome more Mainers in Quebec. When we have the Jazz Festival, a lot of you guys come in and come for the Jazz Festival. And let's build those connections. Let's build those human relationships. Let's build a backbone that will tie us even more closely, energy-wise, economically-wise, and environmentally-wise.
Wonderful. Sophie, thank you so much for your time this morning.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Ben.
Bye-bye.